So did you get your start in real estate investing in tax defaulted property?
Yep.
So that's
Exactly.
where you started. That's where you started. That's where you stayed. So let's make sure everybody understands what's the difference between a tax deed and a tax lien.
Great question. There are all some form of tax default properties. Essentially, a property owner goes delinquent on their property taxes, and it can be any type of land. Some areas, some states will take the lien against the property and sell it, where investors like you and I can step in and purchase it, and for a period of time called a redemption period. And once we've purchased that, after that time frame passes, usually what will happen is the property owner will pay the whatever is due plus interest, penalties, and fees. And that's where we make our initial return, our yield, right? Depending on what the percentage is in each area. When you're buying a deed, you're actually buying the deed to the property. So really, this is also comes down to what type of investor are you? And everybody's different. Some people are looking for a high yield rate of return, like a hedge fund. Some people are looking to acquire properties. If you have some capital, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I know you're an expert in helping people get money, which is what you do, and you're looking to acquire properties, deed investing is the way for you to go to acquire properties, have immediate ownership. Each state is a little different in terms of, do you really own the property? Is it free and clear, or are there more steps? And each area can be different in whether you have the property completely free and clear, or if you still have to go through quiet title action. So basic idea is tax liens, you're going to get your money back plus interest with a slight chance for a property. Tax deed, you're actually buying the deed to the property, take ownership of the property.
Hey, it's Mark Podolsky, the Land Geek, with your favorite niche real estate website, thelandgeek.com. And on this week's Roundtable podcast, we have almost all the usual suspects. We've got the Zen Master, Breathe in the Mailing, Breathe out the Marketing, Mike Zano. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm great. We've got the technician, Eric Peterson. Eric, how are things?
I'm doing well.
Whenever I see you and you don't have a rib in your mouth, it is just a little bit discombobulating for me. I'm just off balance, but it's good to see you. Sans rib. Taria, putting in the reps. Harris, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm great. Good to see you. And we don't make fun of Atlanta enough, I don't think.
Go for it.
We're scared to. I think we're
Yeah,
scared.
go for
I
it.
don't even know
Go
where we
for it.
start with the Coca-Cola, the peaches.
I'm not from here, so have at it.
All right. Well, Eric's not from Nashville.
No,
This is true.
Doesn't stop us.
you're an implant.
But speaking of one of the easiest cities to make fun of, Sin City. I love it when you call me Big Papa. Tate Litchfield. Tate, how are you?
I'm great. Doing well. Thanks.
And last but not least, all the way from Tampa Bay, Florida, the brain, the professor, your flight school Sherpa, Scott Todd, scotttodd.net, landmoto.com. Learn anything about anything, investorninjas.com. Scott Todd, how are you?
Mark, I'm great. You know what I love about Tampa?
What?
Is that the food is worthy of either a trophy or a ring. We get to choose.
Okay, that's an obscure sports reference.
It's like a Zen cone.
Yeah, I'm
Like the
I don't
Stanley
feel
Cup.
good.
Tate.
I'm out of here.
Well,
I'm
we have
not
a
feeling
Super
too
Bowl
hot,
ring.
guys.
I don't know. Just saying.
All right. Well, Scott's in rare form.
I haven't forgiven Scott though since Vegas, and that's something we got to talk about at another point in time because he comes to my city. We're out. We're having a good time. He comes in. He says, "Oh, it's so hot outside. I'm dying of thirst." What does he do? What do you do, Scott? What did you do to me? This is how you started your trip here.
Are you thirsty, Tate? And you're like, yeah, it's hot in this town of Las Vegas. And I'm like, yeah, I'm hot and thirsty too. And in my bag, I whipped out my Stanley Cup Tervis tumbler, and I put it on the table there, and I poured myself a drink of water. And I asked, "Hey, would you like a drink?" And he's like, "No, thank you. No."
I told him to put that away because he was likely to get beat up in this town. And so he quickly put it back in the brown paper bag and into the bin where it belonged. But yeah, it was rude. It was just rude, Mark. It's just rude.
I mean, look, the whole tribalism of sports, I don't even get it anymore. I'm like on Mike Zano's side. It's like Sunday, sports, what? I'm going to go read. I'm going to hang out with some friends. I don't understand. I don't know who these people are. I don't even know why anyone cares. How is this even fun?
Yeah, accurate, actually.
What's that?
The accurate description of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. My son once looked at me. He's like, "Dad," like I was like cheering at the TV. He's like, "Dad, they can't hear you," and he's like, "And they don't know you, and they don't care."
Oh,
I'm like, that's a good point. He's like, "I don't understand why you're getting so emotional about these strangers." I'm like, it's a psychological problem. I'll give you that, but it's so fun.
It's fun.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's always we win, they lose. I never understood that. We won, they lost. Like I don't get it.
Who's they?
When you include yourself when they win, and then when they lose, you exclude yourself. They lost. They're having a bad year. We're having a great year. Oh, they're horrible.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
yeah. It's truly a psychological, tribal, deep evolutionary thing. Sports.
It'd be like me watching Tate do it. We got a sale today. Oh, we didn't get a. Oh, he didn't get a sale today. So it's like I'm just watching him do his business. Like I don't get it. It just anyway. Enough. Sorry.
Well, let's move on to our topic. Scott Todd, this is a really interesting topic. I've been so excited to delve deep into this because it's very personal for me for lots of different reasons, which I'll talk about. But I think it's important that we talk about it again.
Yeah. So basically, somebody had brought to our attention that they purchased a property. They went through their due diligence. They purchased a property, and then they sold that property. But what they noticed in their due diligence was that in the chain of title, it had previously been purchased for as a tax deed property. Now, the thing about tax deed properties is that you just typically can't turn around and sell it as a cash buyer. I mean, you can, but if your buyer or someone downline wants to take it through a title company, a title insurance is not going to issue a title insurance policy on a property that was purchased at tax deed auction within a cure period. Typically, it's like 4 to 7 years. It depends on the state, right? So, I mean, it could be less than that, but typically it's like that 4 to 6 range, and each state's different. But the title insurance is going to look at that and say, well, we don't want to issue a title insurance policy on that. Now, that doesn't mean that the property is not sellable. It doesn't mean that the property is not, you can't sell it. It just means that you don't have what they call marketable title until the period cures. And there is a way of curing it. You can take it, there's 2 ways really to cure it. One, you could take it through a court action called quiet title, or you could take it through a service like Tax Title Services, who were on this podcast in the archives. They were on this podcast and they talked about that. So either one of those 2 ways to do it is possible. But it brings up the point. One, would you guys purchase a property that in the chain of title has a tax deed property, or it was purchased at a tax deed sale? Would you purchase it, number one? And 2, what would you, if you did buy it, what would you like? What considerations or concerns would you have?
Well, I know that because he voxes me every day and says, Mark, can I start with these difficult questions on the Art of Passive Income podcast? And I always feel badly saying no to Mike. So, Mike, why don't we start with you?
Okay, well, I have purchased directly from the county tax deeds. I have purchased where they're in the chain of title, and I've sold them. I will say they're typically lower value properties, and I typically sell them on terms. And I do disclose, to the people that's how, but I haven't had any issues. So I'm not, is the question whether or not we would do it, Scott? Or is there any concerns we'd have?
Well, the question is, would if you saw a tax deed in the chain of title, would you buy the property? And
Yes.
if you did buy the property, and you kind of answered this, would you, what would you do? Would you, like you said, you would disclose it to a buyer, a terms buyer or a cash buyer, you would disclose that. But I think you just hit on something.
Okay.
It's priced to that, right?
Yeah, I do it on, these are lower end properties, that it's not like I'm buying anyway. Yeah. So I've done this a lot, right? And I've sold them on terms and I've never had any issues, and I do disclose that. And it's fine because I'm getting them at a great price, and the people that I'm selling it to are getting them at a really good price with easy terms. So they've all been happy. So I personally do not have any issues with that.
Okay. Eric, the technician Peterson, any issues with buying tax deed properties, reselling them before the, redemption period or the period of where there you'd have marketable title?
No issues here. We've done it before. And, I'm sure we'll do it again. Typically, those properties are sold on terms, and typically the redemption period has expired prior to the sale being finished. In other words, the note being paid in full. So at that point, we're going to have marketable title. And it is, I suppose, a small risk, right? Doing that. But as long as I know that I'm taking that risk and I'm willing to stand behind that property, if something comes up, then, there's not a whole lot to worry about there in my perspective. So yes, we do it.
Okay. I like the whole risk reward ratio that you brought up. Taria, putting in the reps Harris. How about you?
So we have not bought those types of properties, but I don't see why we wouldn't. We just haven't come across any. I think what Mike and Eric both said, one, just kind of disclosing if necessary that, you cannot pay cash for it is one thing. For me, I guess it would be the price point of the property, because like Eric mentioned, it is a bit of a risk. So it would need to be something that I'm comfortable risking if anything would go kind of sideways with the deal. So for me, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but it would just need to be within a price point that I was comfortable with risking.
Okay. That makes sense. And to Mike's point, like these are typically much, very, very inexpensive properties, typically under $1,000. Mike, would you agree with that?
Exactly. The properties I was talking about, I bought a whole bunch of them from a county once that I bought them each for like $250 a piece. So I was fine with it.
Right. So,
but they can just as a point too. They're not always like that. They can be,
I was going to say
higher priced. Okay. So it's not always that they're less than that. The thing is, and I like what you guys are saying, is that, as long as it's going through a terms buyer, it's not an issue. Or if it's a cash buyer, it's still not an issue, as long as you disclose it and as long as they know, hey, this is where it's going to go. And, at some point in the future, they can kind of make sure they sell that through title insurance. That's it.
Right.
Tate, how about you?
I was just going to
buy from there.
I was going to kind of repeat what Scott said. I've bought a lot of these, a lot of them, and most of them, I don't know if I've ever bought one for cheaper than $1,000. So I'm on the flip side of that. I bought some expensive ones, and I'm okay with that. Number one, I know how this process works. And I think that's the key is you might need to get some education, right? You might need to make some phone calls. You might need to know if, what, how this whole process happens. And if you understand that, that should boost your confidence or help you steer clear of them if that's not what you want to take on. So for me, I have the knowledge, I have the risk tolerance. I'm okay with it. We buy these. If the price is right, I'm going to do the deal. Period.
Mike Zana, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, it just happens to be the ones that I purchased were smaller in value, but knowing what you're doing and knowing the knowing all the mechanisms in place and be able to explain them to the buyer. I mean, that's it. It's not a concern if you can address it in a way that makes them feel comfortable.
Right, Scott. What are the risks of buying tax deed property?
Yeah. So basically the reason that the title insurance doesn't really want to issue the title insurance policy on it is because if there was a technicality where the county did not notify the sellers or the previous owners in the tax deed situation, your property is going to be lost. Well, then they could make a claim that says we were not properly notified. Okay, so the county, before the county just takes the property away, they get multiple notices. They're getting notices that their taxes are late. They're getting notices that, it just doesn't show up at the tax deed auction. They get certified letters. It's hitting multiple addresses. If they find multiple addresses, the owner, the state, or the county, if you will, goes through a rigorous process. They do a title search on it, and they typically turn around and go. So where the biggest risk comes in is not necessarily on the land that we're buying and selling for title insurance companies. Where the biggest risk comes in, honestly, is with houses, right? Like you lost your house to a tax deed. Well, that's a lot of money. We all know that the majority of the reason that people don't sell their land is because the owner passed away. And then it's got to go through probate. And it doesn't go through probate because of the cost involved. So the people stop paying the taxes. And that's why the land gets taken at tax deed auction in the majority of the situations. But I can tell you that you have to kind of just fast forward the movie a little bit. So if you know that that's the risk, now let's go to the process of what it looks like. So let's just say that I lost my land to the tax deed auction and I truly wanted this land and I'm upset about it. I'm still living the earth. And now I'm going to turn around and I'm going to sue. I'm going to sue the current owners because I want it back. I'm going to sue the county because they took my property away from me, which is a constitutional violation. I didn't get my due process, all of that stuff. I'm going full barrel after this thing. Now, what's going to happen is I'm going to get in front of a judge, and the judge is going to ask me one simple question. So remember, and by the way, let me back up one more thing. Remember, it just doesn't show up at tax deed auction. It's not like you're 30 days late and it's tax deed auction. It's years and years and years, okay, before it gets to that point. And then what happens is you get in front of the judge, and the judge is going to ask you one simple question. He's going to say, did you pay the taxes? No, Your Honor. Did you know that you had land? Yes, Your Honor. And you chose not to pay the taxes. Well, I didn't get a tax bill, Your Honor, but you knew you had land and you weren't paying the taxes. Correct. Case dismissed. Because the minute that a judge says, oh, you didn't pay your taxes, and oh, that's okay. It's okay. You can have your land back. The entire property system in America falls down. So you kind of have to look at that and go, what is truly the risk? The risk is very little on the properties that we're dealing with.
Right, Tate.
I was just going to say, going on that same line, when I was in college, I got pulled over because I did not renew my registration on my vehicle. And I remember I went to the cop and I'm getting this ticket. I'm like, well, I never got anything in the mail. And that's because I was out of state and my parents. And he's like, how old are you, son? And I was like, 20. And he's like, how long have you been driving? I was like, well, 16. He's like, how many times have you renewed your car in the past? I was like, every year. He's like, well, why would you have to stop doing it now? Here's your ticket. Have a great day. And I remember I called my dad, and my dad he wasn't even mad. He was just like, well, son, regardless of if you get that envelope or that letter in the mail saying it's time to renew your registration, you have to do that. You have a sticker on the back of your license plate that says you got to do this. It's the same with your property taxes. If the letter doesn't get to you, it doesn't mean that you don't have to pay, right? You're responsible for that vehicle or that property from A to Z, from start to finish. And so, yeah, that's a good analogy, Scott. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is how I started. I mean, this is how I started in the business, was at tax deed auction, buying properties and flipping those properties. And I didn't know about anything when I first started. I didn't know there was redemption periods. I didn't know about the legalities that someone could come back and make a claim. I didn't even know what marketable title was. I was just like, oh, I'm going to flip this property. And I did it a lot without anything ever happening. And so as I started, getting a little older and realizing, oh, maybe I should learn more about this whole business, then I started seeing, oh, there's a little bit of risk with this. I do remember there was one time at a Texas deal that I just got like a notice saying, hey, there was a redemption and I had sold the property, and the county just sent me a check and said, here, this got
Money
redeemed,
back.
And I just, it's like, okay, well, here's your money back. Like it was, so there's always a way to resolve it. So to get back to what Scott was saying, if this does happen, you have ways to solve this problem. There's no problem that can't be solved in the land business. So if it happens, then go through Quiet Title, go through taxtitleservices.com, save some money. So there's always a way to do it. And, and to Tate's point, ignorance is not an excuse. I didn't know is not an excuse. If you were in the land business, do your due diligence and be in the land business and know what it means when you're buying a property from a tax deed sale. Who's responsible, Scott Todd?
The who's responsible is the buyer is responsible.
The buyer's responsible. 100%. 100%.
I mean, you have to know. You kind of have to know what the story and what I mean. If you just look at a chain of title and you're like, well, it's on there, but I don't even know what that means, and you just roll with it, well, then you that's on you, right? Like, the whole thing is it continue. Life is all, we all know this, right? Like life is all about education. You see something you don't know, ask a question. I don't know what that means. What does this mean? Have a conversation with somebody, but definitely, keep learning and keep asking questions. It's the only way to figure this stuff out.
And I think it's just it's a better way to go through life, is having the attitude, I'm responsible for everything that happens to me in my life. Because if you have that as your life view or your attitude through life, you have total control. And I mean, I think Scott, Todd, we were talking about this maybe a year or two ago, where you were getting a backup generator for your house because the electricity went out. And I was like, oh, I forgot, like, oh, I said something flippant, like, oh, that if that happens, it's not my responsibility. Like, no, everything's your responsibility. Like even acts of God are your responsibility. And you can do something about it. If the power goes out, you have the power to go to Home Depot and get a backup generator. So, so if it does happen to you, worst case, it's a learning experience.
Yep.
Best case is you have total control for next time. And I just think it's a better way to go through life. It's not fun. I'll grant somebody that, right? But I just think it's just a better way to approach things, get educated, keep learning, keep, listening to podcasts. And when you don't know something, ask questions. Don't just assume anything. And keep learning. And if you make a mistake, own it and say, okay, next time I'll do better, and learn from that mistake and not look at the world to resolve those problems. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. And we're back to the podcast. which means that we get to go to our tip of the week. But before we do that, before we go to Taria's tip of the week, I want to just give Scott one last opportunity. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's good.
Okay. Well, I just want to have to mention our sponsor, which is Flight School. Learn how the next 16 weeks can transform your life. Start building that passive income without any headaches, no renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents. How are you going to do it? Well, the best way to learn is by somebody who's done it thousands of times, a master at it. That's the best way. And so have Scott Todd take you up that mountain of land investing quickly, safely, and efficiently. Oh, I know what you're thinking. Well, what about the tuition? It ain't going to cost you nothing. Guaranteed. 180 days or less, you're going to make back that money. Learn more. Start building your own land business. Go to landgeek.com/training. Schedule a call. thelandgeek.com/training. Taria putting in the Rebs Harris. What is your tip of the week?
So my tip of the week is really about our community, the Mighty Networks, where we all gather and we share information, we distribute and disseminate information. What I've noticed is that some people are now joining and using these fraudulent names or nicknames, I'll say even. And so those accounts look a little trollish to me. So my recommendation and my tip is use your actual name when you sign up for Mighty Networks. If you want us to engage and communicate with you, we would like to know actually who you are, and don't kind of hide behind some fictitious name.
I love that tip. In the same way, if I went to a conference and everyone had their name tag, Eric, Tate, Mike, Scott, Tria, and I put Bug. What?
Bug.
That's your name is Bug? Well, it's not really my name. I just like to be stealthy. I like to go by Bug. Just call me Bug. I mean, who would
Maybe
you really,
Bugs.
Bugsy.
or something like I don't know. Some crazy pseudonym.
Bug. Mosquito. Fly.
Mosquito, right? Grasshopper. People in the community are not going to trust me.
Exactly.
It's just the way it is. Just because it's online, it's still a community, and you want to treat it as such. Just like if you're going to meet someone in person and they said, "Hey, what's your name?" You wouldn't say, "My name is Papa John's."
Yeah, you wouldn't want to meet your neighbor and say, "Hi, I'm Bug."
I'm Bug, or I'm,
I hope you can rely on that neighbor.
yeah, I'm a colorful shoelace. I don't know.
Mark, we had someone join the other day, and their name was Brew Duh Coffee. Seriously. And the thing is that guess what? They're no longer in the network because you got to use your name.
Yeah, I mean, I love coffee, but when I go to Starbucks, they say, "What's your name?" I don't say Bruda. No, it's like, this is what we do in civil society. We use our names. That's why,
latte for Bug, latte skim milk for Bug.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a great tip. Anyways, I do want to thank the listeners and remind them the only way that I'm going to be able to cajole the rest of the Land Geek coaches to keep coming on the Roundtable podcast, giving value, is if you do us 3 favors. You got to follow, rate, review the podcast, send us a screenshot of that review, support at thelandgeek.com. I'm going to send you a free copy of a signed copy of Dirt Rich, which in the NFT world might be going for 1.2 million Ethereum someday. I don't know. Could. So takes you 2 minutes. Could be a Ethereum millionaire. You never know. Eric, are we good?
We are great.
Mike, are we good?
Yes, we are.
Tria?
All good.
Tate,
Yep.
Scott.
Good.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Let's do this. 1, 2, 3. Let freedom ring. Actually, that was pretty good.
That was very on point.
Wow. We should record that one and just dub it into all the endings. It's not bad. I don't know.
Not bad.
Not bad. All right. Well, you guys have a great day. And see ya.
See you guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Art of Passive Income podcast. Start your journey at www.thelandgeek.com and www.scotttodd.net. Rate and review the podcast and email support@thelandgeek.com. Your screenshot for a free passive income launch kit.
Hey, it's Mark Podolsky at The Land Geek with your favorite niche real estate website, www.thelandgeek.com. And this week's podcast guest is going to take us all through tax lien investing to build wealth. I'm very excited about it. We have not had a tax lien investor on in quite a while. However, I'd be remiss if I didn't properly introduce my co-host. You know him. You love him. Scott Todd, scotttodd.net. landmodo.com. If you're not automating your Craigslist and your Facebook postings, postingdomination.com/The Land Geek. Learn anything about anything. InvestorNinjas.com. Scott Todd, how are you?
Mark, I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. Just a little reminder, today's podcast is sponsored by Flight School. If you want to go up the mountain of land investing, have Scott Todd be your Sherpa, the brain, the professor. He'll take you up there quickly, efficiently, safely. Over 16 weeks. Learn more. Just go to thelandgeek.com/training and see how Flight School can literally transform your life. Today's guest is Melanie Finnegan. If you're not familiar with Melanie, she is the person that manages the daily operations of her company, taxlienwealthsolutions.com. She handles the portfolio management, portfolio consulting. She's been investing, educating, and assisting clients in becoming successful in the tax lien investing industry for over 10 years. And she's also the founder and CEO of Tax Lien Wealth Solutions. Melanie Finnegan, welcome.
Hey, thanks so much, you guys. How are you today?
You know what? I got to say, pulse is still normal. Respiration's fine. I can't complain, Melanie Finnegan.
That's awesome.
So, Melanie Finnegan, of all the real estate niches, why tax lien investing?
Oh, you would ask that one, right? So I did it because I was 12 years ago faced with personal, I was going through a divorce, needed a job kind of thing. And I happened upon a company that was near my home and connected with them, and they taught me about tax liens. I'd never heard of them in my life. And I fell in love with the investment process. So my son's involved in it now. He was, I think 10 at the time. Yeah. Or 8 at the time I started there. Gosh, he's 21 now. But I just dug in and learned everything I could about it. I quickly advanced, became a certified tax lien professional with a certification, and created some strategic moves and things like that I saw was assisting and helping people as an alternative asset class. You know that they're making money with their 401ks and self-directed IRAs, and I fell in love with it. So it's kind of a Cinderella story, if you will.
Okay, Scott Todd, your thoughts?
Well, Mark, as you know, I'm not sure if the listeners know or not, but you know it. Before I was doing land investing, I was doing some tax lien investing, and to this day, I still do some tax lien investing, and I like it, right? I've always liked it. I will admit the yields are not as high as what I get on my land. It could be depending on the right play, but essentially it really is you do the work one time and you put it over here on the shelf and it comes to you. What I don't like about it is that I really don't control when I get paid off, right? Like to some extent, it's not, there's not a lot of liquidity to it. And that's the one thing that like, I got to be careful because I will geek out on that. And it's really about the data behind it too. So I'll geek out on it, but man, it is nice having some predictable income as well. So maybe Melanie can solve that problem for me.
Melanie, can you solve the problem?
Oh, yes, and Scott, no offense to you or anything like that. Sounds to me you know just enough to get in trouble.
Maybe.
So yeah, and maybe that is it. You're saying you're advanced. I'm a data analysis too. I run a data analyst and I run data and things like that. But there are things that give you a little bit more control in tax lien investing. Being prepared for foreclosure is one, being able to initialize that foreclosure and shake the money loose there. Send it to which states go to deed auction before you get the deed to the property. Knowing each state's intricacies. Also, there's little incentives. Like we focus mainly, I live in Utah, but we focus mainly in Florida because there's incentives there for the investor where we capitalize. There's also a ramp up period. I tell everybody, give it a few months, and as you're investing, continue to reinvest and you'll create your water flow, which creates your cash flow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so we do have some things in common. Like I'm in Florida, and so every tax I've ever bought is in Florida. So there's the start. I do know the 5%, bump when you buy the note, you get the 5% bump. I have gone in and purchased some older like county held tax lien certificates so that I could really control the process of when it kind of goes to auction. I've done that. At that point, you're still probably 6 months, even if you filed for foreclosure on it, you're probably still 6 months to get your money back. Can I get it back faster?
So that is a great question. So I understand what you're saying. Number one, and I'm not controversial or being controversial, but everybody be very careful with over-the-counter tax liens. They're over-the-counter
Right.
for a reason. They weren't sold at auction because the desire is less. It's significantly less than the ones sold at auction. The 5% secret, but you don't know the tax deed application secret. It sounds like to me when, regardless of what your certificate interest is stated, if it's a 0.25 up to 18%, whenever you file foreclosure, your certificate automatically in Florida triggers 18% per month, regardless of that
Right.
initial certificate. So that's the TDA strategy I use, the tax deed application. Right. Now, you're asking about the 6-month return. Think about this. Think about it like this. No, you're absolutely right. A single certificate will not redeem. It could, I get redemptions all the time, right? But I'm in the ebb and flow. So I have created my waterfall. So I'm at the moment I get redeemed on a single certificate, I immediately reinvest, right? And that's what I do for my clients. So then we constantly are getting redemptions. So if you're looking at a single certificate performance, I believe you're looking at it the wrong way. I think it is a portfolio performance. If you're wanting to create cash flow, it's going to take cash. It's not something that you can jump in with $1,000 and automatically just be, waterfalling cash flow to you constantly. That's an expectation I think that a lot of people have, but it's just not there. But I appreciate your candor. But there is a way to create that water flow and stream of cash flow, and tax liens is a way to do that.
Yeah.
All right, you two. Let me just jump in here before you two.
You want to fight?
Wait a minute. Mark, hold on. See, now I really have to throw a curveball at Melanie.
Oh, great.
Okay. I got one more.
Wait, Scott, before you throw the curveball, because you two are really geeking out now.
We're such nerds.
On tax lien investing. I want to just basically walk the listener through the process so that we're all sort of understanding your terminology and why this is such an effective strategy. So Melanie, Scott's in Florida, and guess what? He's not paying his property taxes on his single family residence.
Oh, shame on him.
Then what happens?
So poor Scott, and I tell everybody, any one of us who are not paying our property taxes, I swear it's playing Russian roulette with your property. It is a problem. So Scott, number one, that's a no-no. You should have paid your tax bill, because now the following year because why do we need these property tax money? The purpose of tax lien investing and tax lien certificates is to support our police officers, our government entities, our fire departments, our schools, our parks, potholes. They have monthly budgets. They have to meet that. So back in the 1800s, they came up with the tax lien investing program that hasn't really been tweaked. And what they do is they put up a certificate for sale for an investor to come in. And the minimum bid is starting at whatever Scott owes. That's called the face amount. It's his tax bill. So it's his tax bill. And then it gets bid down in Florida in 0.25% increments. The higher the property is, more highly desired property it is, the lower interest rate you're going to receive. But that communicates to you non-verbally that you're investing on a premier property, the lower that interest rate is. So it goes for sale. You have a period of time. In my office at Tax Lien Wealth Solutions, we call it a grace period, and it's called the redemption period, where you're stymied a bit for having any control over the investment, but you are accruing interest on paper. And you, at 2 years and day one in Florida, you can easily initialize the foreclosure and shake the money loose that way. My company buys on the secondary market, so we can foreclose immediately when we get that transferred into our name, because we buy outside of the redemption period.
So let's just real quickly define the secondary market. So yep. Scott's certificate has gone through the tax lien auction, correct?
Correct.
And let's say Mark's hedge fund buys his certificate.
Okay, so go ahead. Sorry.
Now, so I hold the certificate, but I don't really want the asset. So then what do I do?
So you're the hedge fund. So I'm so glad you said hedge fund, because as many people know, and Scott, I'm sure you know, being a single individual entity and investor, or just a single person going out there and bidding, it's very difficult because it's an institutionalized. It's monopolized by institutions such as Deutsche Bank or Bank of America, huge hedge funds. They gain wealth from doing tax and investing like this. And then what happens is they're not in the business of acquisition, foreclosure, or anything of that nature. So I have a broker, and because I belong to the National Tax Lien Association and I'm a member there, then we can actually go in and purchase off that secondary market, where our brokers facilitate deals with the hedge funds and sell them off to us. I buy them in bulk. I get a small bulk discount, and then splice them up between portfolios for my clients. So the secondary market just gives us a little bit more access, right? Like people like my clients who are just regular people can capitalize utilizing, self-directed IRA money or just regular entity money. It doesn't matter wherever you want your liquid to come from. But really, I like to focus on retirement funds, because we are a alternative asset class that can be so promising, especially for what our 401ks are doing right now. And tax lien investing is recession proof.
Okay.
I said the magic words, huh?
well, I think that really gives the listener a really good, view of the tax lien investing strategy from 30,000 feet. Now, Scott, if you want to geek out, go ahead and ask Melanie another question.
Let's do this, Scott.
I'm about to freak her out. I'm sure of it, Mark. All right, Melanie, let me ask you a question. Not only am I buying it over the counter, I'm buying it on land. What do you think?
What do you mean, vacant land? Just vacant land?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think I'm not freaked out. That's what I promote, because I was raised by a blue collar family that was the whole Mark Twain saga is buy land. They're not making any more of it. My grandparents taught me at a very young age how important land is. The dirt is the dirt. What you get is what you see is what you get. I love land, and I think that inside of any type of investment portfolio, let's say you get acquisition on that property, if it's, as long as you've done your due diligence and that you see that land is in a development that's up and coming, hang on to it for 5 years if you need to, because that's the more that land around it gets saturated, the more valuable that lot gets. So good job, Scott. Right. I think you're awesome.
I didn't freak her out, Mark.
Nope.
Okay.
Try
Melanie,
again.
when
The hedge funds don't want it though.
Okay,
Yeah.
when you get the land at tax deed auction, what are you doing with it?
So right now, in fact, so let's say you send it to tax deed auction, okay, or excuse me, you file the tax deed application. Property owner Scott, who was delinquent in the first place, doesn't have the funds to bring that to fruition. So before the investor, gets the acquisition of the deed and takes over, it has to go to a tax deed auction in Florida. So it goes to auction for local real estate investors in the area. If it's not something that they bid on and nobody wants that, then you actually then get the deed to the property. And what do I do with the property? So at Tax Lien Wealth Solutions, what we do is we facilitate the sale. Right now, I'm working on 130 properties that's been acquired via probably the last 8 years. And I have about 130 package. We just sent out the purchase contracts today. I have a single buyer that buys them, and he capitalizes on that, man. He comes in, he pays my clients, makes a little profit, he makes a little profit, and they start the building.
All right. Melanie, you answered it wrong. You're supposed to call Mark and I.
Oh, dang it. Sorry.
You don't
You didn't know that,
guy.
Melanie.
You call us.
You guys,
It's okay.
I'm a follower on your Facebook, and I sometimes make comments on your Facebook, but very, very seldom, but I should have known better. I'll call you next time.
It's all right. We'll forgive you.
It's okay. No worries. But next time you get a tranche of raw land, we want it.
I think do you know what? Tisk. I did contact you, Mark. I actually contacted you about this package I have, and you sent me to your Facebook page. That's what you did. You didn't want to get on the phone with me. Uh-oh.
No, that's impossible.
I have the email in my inbox still.
I would never do that. I'm sure I forwarded it to Scott, and Scott was like, no.
Because I was referred to you. I was referred to you by somebody. I can't remember. I want to say maybe another podcast I did. I do quite a few, but it had to be maybe Invest Florida. I can't remember which one. But somebody referred me to you and did an intro email to us, and you were too busy to talk to me, Mark.
Oh, Mark, you're killing me.
That's insane.
Now what?
It's hard. That's really hard to believe, but it's possible. It's possible.
I think maybe it was a foreign language to you because they were tax deeds rather than maybe warranty or quick claim or anything like that. It could have been a foreign language. Could have been, I don't know. A lot of people that I have that are, and not to disregard your knowledge by any means. I don't do that at all. But I don't know if maybe that's what it was, because you were very receptive to me. You weren't disrespectful or anything. You just were like, okay, yeah, here, start following us here. Show the deeds to these people. The list of deeds to these people on our Facebook page. I know. I see your question mark. I see it.
That's weird.
It's weird. It doesn't sound like me.
After this meeting, I'll forward you the email.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So
nobody's in trouble. Nobody's in trouble. It just happened the way it was supposed to happen. It worked out well.
But here you are now.
I know. I love this. Thank you guys.
No worries. No worries. So, Melanie, Scott's playing with his background now. Oh man.
Oh, I didn't think you were supposed to see that. Sorry.
Nice sharks, bro.
Sorry, because
nice beach balls.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
oh my gosh.
He's loving the story right now.
No, you'll find out why. Like, God, I gave it away. Dog it. I'm sorry. Okay, you didn't see that.
Melanie, what
is happening right now?
I don't even know. This podcast is devolving. Okay, what is the worst advice you see or hear given in tax lien investing?
Oh my gosh, that anybody can do it, or that people. I see so many education formats out there that do the coaching and promise that they can get tuition for education back in 1 month, and people just fall for that trap. And I think it's just like, you have to either have somebody mentor you, you have to have some sort of experience in analyzing data and know which data to analyze so that you're understanding your certificate performance and prediction. There's a lot of moving parts. Scott, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, like there's many times where I've gone down and looked at properties. And when I say gone down, I mean like sit online, look at it. You know, you got to do your due diligence, right? Like you got to know what you're buying, even if you don't get it, right? Like, so you got to do some due diligence there. And there's many times where you do the due diligence and then you either at the tax deed auction, you don't get it, or you find something that's like, that's a problem. And, you know, the other problem with even a house, for example, is, you know, you're taking a snapshot in time, like right now. Okay. It could be, the house could be pristine and they just didn't pay their taxes. And you're like, oh, that looks like a good deal. But by the time you go to do the foreclosure on it, which could be 6 months later, well, the value of that home could have gone down because for all you know, they set the place on fire, right? Like you don't
Yes.
know. Next thing you know, you're like, I got this beautiful house, and you send somebody out to look at it. It's like, dude, a tree fell through it. Now I got a mess on my hands. Okay, so I didn't get an asset. I overpaid for a destroyed house, and I have no insurance on it. Mm-hmm. So it's not easy. It sounds easy, but it does take a lot of work, and there's risk involved in it too.
You're so right. And anybody that says there's not risk inside of a tax lien certificate is completely not being full disclosure. So there is risk. One of the things that's really important to us is how to analyze data. We have an exit strategy that is the assessed value, and emotional distress, and I call it emotional demolition, happens all the time to structures. We'll get concrete in the restroom, or in the toilets, people destroy it. That's why I love land. It doesn't bite us in the behind as much as this of structured properties. And to be completely clear, there's not any, I very rarely have seen a white picket fence with a smiling family, you know, out in the front yard of houses. If they're going to tax deed auction or to tax certificate sale, there's some distress there in advance. Very rarely is it somebody just forgot to pay their taxes. However, that does happen. Once they understand that a certificate's been, you know, sold, then they'll almost immediately pay. There's tax lien gamblers and things like that play with it. But yeah, there's a lot of data that you need to have. And that's why I provided my company, is because I wanted that concierge hand-holding service and education so that they knew what they were going to get into. I require they get a certification through my portal before they can buy out of my inventory. They can't even buy my inventory until they've gone through my learning portal education.
Fantastic. So Melanie, why would anybody that is not, you know, in some, like, just like in your type of situation where, you know, there's been some type of life change and they want to start something new, you know, Scott or myself, we have these businesses and our listeners might have full-time jobs. Why on earth would anyone want to start learning how to do this themselves when they could just deploy self-directed IRA money or QRP money to a professional? And what type of yield would they look to get versus going through the headaches of the due diligence game of trying to learn an entire new business themselves?
So let's talk about today's time, right? We are in some crisis with this COVID-19, right? Our economy is struggling. There's things that are struggling out there that we don't even know yet, but we can see the writing on the wall, what's happening in the market and what's happening. And earlier today, when I said that tax liens are recession proof, we've never been busier than the last 2 weeks. I've never been so busy because they, unfortunately, and I don't even like to say this, but they thrive in a down market. And that's the reason that people are calling us right now, because one thing that our 401k does for us is tuck us in bed at night, makes us feel good. But at the end of the day, when we're retiring, that bed tuck in is just a nightmare because we don't have enough funds. That we've been working all our lives. We felt good about it up until that point of retirement. And there's people going, now what? What do I do now? Because they want to utilize those funds and be able to live the life they've been living. Whereas just being a straight 401k investor, playing the volatility of the market may not lead to that. And I believe, and I've seen tax liens personally change my life. I've spoken that several times. I was totally the stereotype single mother that didn't know where I was going to get the next, meal. And I figured it out and took an opportunity that I got and ran with it. And so tax lien investing is for people who are willing to get into something new rather than not, it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, it's broken right now, guys. It's broken. Things are happening right now and it needs to be fixed. And this isn't a real estate recession. This is something different. We haven't seen this before. So I think right now capitalizing on tax liens is exactly where you guys need to be. And alternative asset classes, of course.
Yeah. I mean, Scott and I are so thankful that we're in the business that we're in.
Right now, yeah.
For sure. So we're at that point now, Melanie, where your mentorship has been invaluable. And I think you and Scott geeking out on tax liens has been extremely entertaining. But now we're going to ask you for your tip of the week, a website, a resource, a book, something actionable for the Art of Passive Income listeners to go improve their businesses, improve their lives. What have you got?
So I love the book, a Dale Carnegie book, How to Win and Influence Friends. Is that what I may be saying the name wrong, but it taught me how to be a good leader, I guess. That's something that I think in business that we forget sometimes as CEOs or presidents of big companies. We forget that everybody's human. We forget the accountability part and that factor. And anything that I've done and where I've succeeded is my biggest success is where I've been accountable to my mistake or being able to learn and grow from a mistake. That's some of the greatest and most beautiful learning. I don't panic like I used to when something comes up, or in the beginning I would panic. I'd never run a business before. As I said, I come from blue collar. Like it just became something I was accustomed to. I didn't know what to do when this or that happened, and now I learn and grow from that. And make people feel important, as Dale Carnegie says. It's the most important thing we can do. It's our number one need as people. We want to feel important, and that I think that as a leader, that's the number one thing you need to do is when you have the right team in place is, make them feel important, and you will have a dynasty. I believe that with my heart and soul.
All right, I love it. Scott Todd, what's your tip of the week?
All right, Mark, my tip of the week is this. It's in the video. Check this out. Zoom meeting backgrounds.com. You can get like all kinds of Zoom meeting backgrounds. Like here, I'm with Katy Perry and like the Sharks,
Oh my gosh.
I can change it up. I don't know. Make life fun while you're working from home. Make life fun when you're on these Zoom meetings. Change
Heck
it up.
yeah.
This is extremely annoying. I got to tell you, like that one. But look, man, me and like the Wolf
You and Leo are buds.
Yeah.
Like who says we can't have?
But Mark's
Leo?
using it too, isn't he? I see the ocean behind him.
I am.
He pretends he's not. He's all, oh gosh.
Well, no, mine's just cooler.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that too.
Yeah,
Mark, come on. You can't beat the Sharks, man.
Can't beat. Look, I agree. Katy Perry is in a league of her own, and you can't beat the Sharks.
Yeah.
But I do like my beach.
I like your beach too.
I thought about saving it. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna save it for another podcast, maybe later today.
That doesn't hurt my feelings.
By the way, Melanie Finnegan, you're in trouble.
Why?
Oh, I found the email thread.
Here we go.
It says, here it is. And it says, Jack Haas from housedudes.com. I said, Jack, thanks so much for the intro. Much appreciated. Melanie, let's talk. Please click the link below to schedule a 15-minute consultation with me.
And then I did. Now it's my turn.
Okay, now that's all I see on my thread.
So I'm so glad that I have this. I hope I don't eat crow, but when I do, I'm going to own it, right? We just talked about it. Mark Podolsky.
Uh-oh.
I'm sitting by anxiously awaiting.
Somebody, yeah. So this is okay.
Hopefully it doesn't have my name on it.
Let's see.
Well,
hang on. No. Hold on.
While she's looking for it, I want to thank the listeners and just remind them that, well, first of all, I want to do my tip of the week, which is going to be tax lien taxlienwealthsolutions.com. taxlienwealthsolutions.com. Hopefully, I'm not going to eat crow on this one. And learn more about tax lien investing. I want to thank the listeners, remind them the only way we're going to get quality guests like Melanie Finnegan from taxlienwealthsolutions.com is if you do three little things. You got to subscribe, you got to rate, you got to review the podcast. Send us a screenshot of that review to support@thelandgeek.com. We're going to send you for free the passive income launch kit, which is normally $97, as well as the latest wholesaling course, How to Double Your Money 30 days or less. Scott Todd, are we good?
We're good, Mark.
Melanie Finnegan, are we good?
We are so good. Sorry, I'm still going through my emails. Yes, we're so good.
Melanie, I think you didn't schedule a call with me. Anyways,
I did. Okay.
Anyways, okay. You can apologize later. No worries, but that's where for me the email string ends. Okay. Nevertheless, I want to thank the listeners. And ready, 1, 2, 3. Let freedom ring.
Word.
All right, pretty good.
Sorry, right, man.
So now we're going to get a discount, Scott, on the next tranche. All right, thanks, everybody.
Okay, thanks so much, you guys. I'll forward you that email, Mark. Thanks.
Hey, James Wise with Holden Wise here. Today I'm coming to you with another video in the Ask James Wise series. Today's question comes from Allie Lickball. Hashtag Ask James Wise. Hi James, I live in Houston, Texas and have built and sold 6 townhomes from ground up. I have never been a landlord and like to get into any type of cash flowing properties. What would you recommend I get into? Would investing in Ohio properties be an option for me since I live far away? My goal is to have at minimum $10K cash flow to me net per month. What type of properties would you recommend? Thank you. Let's dive in. Okay, so let's take this thing from the top. What would I recommend this person gets into? What type of properties? Well, first we need to look at the financing, okay? Because I think financing is the most important thing to pay attention to when it comes to investing in real estate. You can invest cash in any type of business, but the thing that sets real estate apart from every other investment vehicle, like the stock market, mutual funds, all that stuff, is the ability to finance, to leverage your money, to utilize other people's money. Now, there is no better financial product than the 30-year mortgage. Traditional residential financing is the cream of the crop. And that it feels right. That's literally the best financial product you could ever get. The interest is tax deductible. The interest rates are low. The terms are long. 30 years, 360 months. Money is cheap right now. You want to borrow as much of it as humanly possible. If it's good debt, this is good debt. There is such a thing as bad debt. Perhaps that's a video for another day. But as far as good debt goes, go ahead and get yourself into as much good debt as you possibly can. Here is the catch to the best debt ever, the residential mortgages. You are limited to 10 of those suckers, all right? And I'm going to assume you already own your own personal house and you have a mortgage there. So that means you're limited to 9 investment loans, okay? So because of that, I recommend everybody starts with either single-family homes or small multifamily homes. Anything with between 1 and 4 residential units is going to fall in line under that residential financing. So you want to achieve 9 of those. You want to get 9 of those mortgages. Get yourself some nice cash flow producing assets like we have here in the Cleveland market. Which leads me to answer your second question. Can you invest in Ohio even though you live out in Texas? Yes. Yes, you can. Absolutely. That's what we do at Holden Wise. We help investors from all over the world invest in rental properties in the Cleveland market. So if you invest $100,000, you're going to be able to buy $400,000 of property. That's awesome. That's $300,000 that was given to you at great rates from the bank, and then your tenants are going to move into that property, and they're going to pay that $300,000 off for you. Holden Wise will handle all the dirty work. So again, I can help you buy it. We'll help you get the loan to get it. We have referrals to insurance agents who can insure these properties. We have referrals to title company, and Holton Wise does full service property management. We specialize in working with the out-of-state investor. You literally need one phone number to the entire Cleveland market, and it's 216-661-6633. As for your goal of achieving $10,000 a month in cash flow, typically these properties, you can achieve a cash-on-cash return. 10% is definitely very doable. Sometimes some of the deals will end up going 15, 16%, but it's not always the most common thing in the world. So more or less, if you have $1 million to invest, getting you a minimum of $10,000, very doable. Again, actual results, they will vary. Sometimes it's going to be a little higher, sometimes it's a little bit lower. All real estate investments, this is primarily a people business. It's all predicated on your tenants living in the properties. But getting into that will have to be a video for another day. For now, Allie, I hope that answered your question. For the rest of you that have questions, make sure you are subscribed to this channel or following us on Facebook if you want the opportunity to learn while you earn. That's what this channel is all about. That's what Holton Wise is all about. We are all about providing you guys education as well as some of the hottest deals for sale in the entire country. If you'd like to find out more about me, James Wise, my personal story as an investor, broker, entrepreneur, you can go ahead and follow me on my personal Instagram at JamesWiseHWPG. With that page, I post on it every single day, and I like to peel back the layers, let you guys see the behind the scenes. When you become a real estate investor, I want you to see what life is going to be like, what you're going to go through, because it's not always rainbows and somersaults. Sometimes this business gets downright tough, and it gets savage. As always, I'm James Wise, Holton Wise, Real Estate Investing Made Easy.
If you are a real estate investor or want to be a real estate investor and you're looking for more funding for your deals without relying on traditional funding or hard money lenders, don't go anywhere because I'm getting ready to plug you into the money. Well, welcome to another episode of Real Estate Investing with Jay Conner. I'm Jay Conner, your host, and also known as the Private Money Authority. If you're brand new to the show, what in the world is private money? Well, we're talking about working with individuals that use their investment capital or their retirement funds to fund our real estate deals. Now, here on the podcast, if you've been following along, you know that we've had just amazing guests and experts come here on the show, and today is no exception. In fact, today we're going to be talking about tax defaulted properties, tax liens, tax deeds, how to find these deals, how to fund these deals, how to, put the whole thing together. Why is this a strategy that's got some benefits that are, actually different than other different types of real estate investing? But before I bring on my guest today, I've got a gift for you for just being here on the show. And that is, I just released my brand new book, which is called Where to Get the Money Now, Where to Get the Money Now. And you can get this book free. So this book is all about how and where to get money for your real estate deals without relying on traditional or hard money lenders. You see, from 2003 to 2009, I relied on not hard money lenders, but institutional money, local banks to fund our real estate deals. And in January 2009, I lost my lines of credit like everybody else in the world. And I was introduced to this world of private money. Since that time, I have not missed out on a deal for not having the money to fund my deals. So this book lays out for you step by step exactly how to get this same kind of funding and get it very quickly. So you can get the book for free at www.jayconner.com /book, B-O-O-K. That's Jay Conner, JayConner.com/book, B-O-O-K. I am going to ask you to spend a couple of bucks to cover shipping and handling and delivery, but the book is free just for your asking. Go to that URL and we'll get your book rushed right out to you. Well, as I mentioned, I have amazing guests and experts come here on the show, and today is another one of those guests. My guest over 10 years ago discovered these tax defaulted properties. So he's into tax default property investing. And as of today, my guest owns over, put your seatbelt on, 700 tax default investments, and he buys a couple every single week, and check this out, from his home office. So we're talking virtual business here, folks. So these investments that he's in and does are in multiple states across the nation, and they're making anywhere from a 10% to a 25% return on investment. He's a full-time investor and an educator, teaching his students all over the country about how, with the right education, technology, and coaching, you too can invest in tax liens from the comfort of your own home. And with that, welcome to the show, my friend, Jay. That's right, another Jay Drexel. Hello, Jay. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. That was a great introduction. Never heard myself sound better than that. So I greatly appreciate it. Must be something in the name, Jay. I think that's what it is.
I think there is something in the name, Jay. So let's go ahead and dive right in, Jay. Tell us your backstory. How did you get into real estate investing?
Well, my backstory is I grew up blue-collar family. I'm one of 8 kids, and I never learned that whole thing to work smarter, not harder. I was physical labor. I was a garbage man for several years. Basically, around the crash, 07, 08, I lost my job and ended up, my home went into foreclosure. Was not in academia at all. I was not a book learner at the time. And I knew that when I was going through this, I'm a single dad, I had custody of my son, and I was forced to move in my mom's basement, which wasn't very cool in my mid-30s. So I basically heard and read, just like you and so many great investors out there, that real estate's the #1 way to create wealth. But I knew nobody in real estate that had any bit of success. I didn't know how to get access to money. I had very little, a couple $100s to my name at the time. Of course, living in my mom's basement. I was working part-time in a friend's video game store. So a kid's job that I got made fun of by teenagers all the time because I didn't know anything about the games. But I didn't know how to get into real estate. I wanted to be just like you. I wanted to be an investor, own doors. I wanted to flip properties, but I had no idea how to go about it. And I didn't know that there were awesome people like you out there that can coach and mentor. I had no idea any of this stuff existed. And I happened to be doing retail arbitrage to make some extra money, which was selling stuff on eBay at the time. And I stumbled across a book called The 16% Solution, I believe written by a guy named Joe Moskowitz. Now it's dated now, but it basically just explained tax sales. And I remembered seeing some infomercials on them, and they made it look really simple and easy. And they said you could invest with just a few $100s. I said, okay, I can do that. I showed up to a live sell, and it wasn't anything like that. They didn't have anything affordable for me to buy. If you've ever been to a tax sale, they usually have the highest price stuff. They're bringing money to the local government. Found out about direct buy tax liens from a county, from another investor there, or what a lot of people called OTC, over-the-counter tax liens. And I made my first investment for $72. A few months later, I got a check for $85, so $13 profit. Woo! But it was 18% return, and that just got me going. And it eventually led me to different types of real estate, flipping, and obviously rentals, all those things. But it was my entryway, and that's really what we focus on now. Is, hey, no matter what level you are, we can show you at least to get one investment to get you started, and it's just to get that ball rolling. And as I said, that was well over a decade ago, almost a decade and a half, and I just consistently continue to buy until I could acquire actual properties through tax sales and eventually traditionally, or many of the ways that you educate on. And that kind of led me down that path where now things have went digital, virtual, which we all seem to love now. And now I buy consistently every single week. And the complete tax sale game has changed, especially in the last year or so because of the pandemic, where areas weren't able to have live sales anymore. So a lot of things have moved online. Now you can buy liens and deeds all over the nation every single day of the year online. So it's really, really changed. That was my long story long. There you go.
Yeah. So did you get your start in real estate investing in tax defaulted property?
Yep.
So that's
Exactly.
where you started. That's where you started. That's where you stayed. So let's make sure everybody understands what's the difference between a tax deed and a tax lien.
Great question. There are all some form of tax default properties. Essentially, property owner goes delinquent on their property taxes, and it can be any type of land. Some areas, some states will take the lien against the property and sell it, where investors like you and I can step in and purchase it, and for a period of time called a redemption period. And once we've purchased that, after that time frame passes, usually what will happen is the property owner will pay the whatever is due plus interest, penalties, and fees. And that's where we make our initial return, our yield, right? Depending on what the percentage is in each area. When you're buying a deed, you're actually buying the deed to the property. So really, this also comes down to what type of investor are you? And everybody's different. Some people are looking for a high yield rate of return, like a hedge fund. Some people are looking to acquire properties. If you have some capital, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I know you're an expert in helping people get money, it's what you do, and you're looking to acquire properties, deed investing is the way for you to go to acquire properties, have immediate ownership. Each state is a little different in terms of, do you really own the property? Is it free and clear, or are there more steps? And each area can be different in whether you have the property completely free and clear, or if you still have to go through quiet title action. So basic idea is tax liens, you're going to get your money back plus interest with a slight chance for a property. Tax deed, you're actually buying the deed to the property, take ownership of the property.
Do some states offer both tax liens and tax lien tax deeds, or does the state do it just one way or the other?
It's based state to state, but there are some states do both. What you're going to see a lot of times is that a lot of states will say that they're just tax lien certificate states, but they tend to have some type of deed sale also. And there's so much, it gets really confusing in a sense because every single area is different. It's not really, everybody talks about a state to state, but in reality, it's by local jurisdiction. So it's cities, counties, townships, municipalities, parishes, wards, districts, and they can all have their own sales. So Florida is kind of the most buyer-friendly state that we find for liens and deeds. So they do offer both. So you'll find some states that are tax liens, some that are deeds, some do both. And there's some that's a variation called a redemption deed. It's kind of a hybrid of a tax lien and tax deed together. And that's what you'll see in places like Texas and Rhode Island and Hawaii.
So, in the single family house business, we've got a long list of ways that we locate potentially motivated sellers of single family houses. My guess is finding these deals are like completely different than the way we do the single family house business as far as finding these deals. So how does an investor locate opportunities for tax sales, tax liens, tax certificates, all that?
It's really research. It's contacting local areas, getting access to when their sales are. And that's another thing that a misconception or bad information on is that each area will decide when and where and how they're going to do those sales. So you'll see that some areas will have sales once a month. Some areas do it once a year. And because of the pandemic, many areas had to postpone their sales because of social distancing. And so you're just searching those areas. And then you have to find out, number one, when is the sale? How does the sale function? Because there's a lot of different auction processes. There's bid up, there's bidding down interest. There's some states like New Jersey that do both, a hybrid of the two. And then there's some even more complicated where you're actually sharing ownership of properties with other investors. So it's just a lot of research. What we've done at United, our team, is we've created a technology that we can, if you go to our website, we can inform you more about, and I'll give you all a great opportunity if you want to find out more about this to have a consultation with a tax lien investor like myself coming up. I'll give you the information on that just a bit, but we have a technology called Marketplace Pro that really queries a lot of this information from all over the US and puts it in a database so you can go and find it that way. But traditionally, it's just it used to be a lot of going through county records, if you remember those days. Now, most things are online, but every county, every single area, their websites are all completely different. Some are great, some are horrible. And I know you've probably seen this in looking up county records on properties. You just never know what you're going to get in some areas.
Yeah, I don't want to wait until the end of the show. If someone's interested in starting to learn about this tax defaulted property business, tax liens, certificates, deeds, how can they connect with you and your team, Jay, to learn about it? And then I'll pick up with my next question.
Oh, thanks for asking that. Well, actually, as a bonus for having me on here, we put together a free download and some free information for everybody. So you can go and pull out your phone whenever you get a chance to, and you can text the word invest, INVEST, to 72,000. It should be on your screen right now. Great job, everybody there. And what you'll receive is a free ebook that explains the basics of tax sales, because they can all be different, a lot of strange information out there. It's also going to give you a list of 500 tax default property investments that you can research and maybe even get your first tax default investment there on liens and deeds. And also, if you'd like to have a consultation with one of our advisors that can break down really what type of investor are you looking for, a rate of return, you're looking for properties, you're looking for both. I'm guessing most of your audience is looking for properties. We do focus on education, but it makes us a little different as we really do focus on assets and lining you up with the right asset. Just like you and many investors, once you have access to money, for many people right now, it's finding properties. We're lucky in the sense that we have tons of access to information and data that we can say, okay, what is it that you're looking for? And we can go through the software and find it to pass that on to you. So if you'd like to learn more about this, go to that, text that's invest to 72,000. You'll get the download and sign up for a free consultation. It's free to you, so we can tell you the direction that probably best suits you as an investor. You know what type of investor you are, so we'll cater whatever information you need around what you want to do.
Again, that folks, text the word invest, INVEST, to 72,000. You'll get the free ebook and the opportunity to, dive in and have a conversation with one of Jay's advisors. So Jay, next question is, what are some of the benefits of investing in these types of investments, say versus multifamily, single family, commercial, land, self-storage, all those other opportunities?
What's great about this is that it's because it has become virtual. And the way that it's set up, you've got there's not volatility in it. And I also don't have to manage the properties. I know many wise investors like you will have property managers, things like that. But as a beginning investor, if you really don't have those things laid out, it's a way that you can invest and have the returns that are government mandated. And I know a lot of people like to say it's guaranteed, but it's dependent upon the county, where you can set the money and forget it. That's what's so great about this investment strategy is it can work with any level. We can show you how to get started with less than $100 or over $1 million. It's great because it's consistent. It's got government mandates behind it, great chances for properties. And it's a place to park your money where it's consistently growing, just like the old adage, if you don't find a way to make money while you're sleeping, you're going to work until the day you die, right? So it's just consistent growth on your money. And the way that I came about it was, like you said, almost shocked to say, okay, you got started in tax sales. That was my way in. I do a lot of different types of real estate, but more of our clients tend to be investors that have worked with an expert like you. They're just looking for other streams, other places to put their money, other ways to find properties. So it really is complementary to traditional real estate. And it's great in the sense that it's really about as passive as you can get. You research it, you invest, and you just sit back and wait, knowing you can get 12, 18, 24, 36% interest on your money, and then a potential of getting a property at a massive discount. So it's really cool. And right now they're seeing more inventory than we've seen for years because of everything that's happened with moratoriums. We've seen a huge explosion just in the first quarter of this year, and much inventory. As an example, using Florida, they have their sales going on right now, and there's over 450,000 tax lien certificates up for sale against $58 billion worth of real estate. So it's just a great, secure investment as long as you do it the right way. Just like anything else, you can throw money away, but get the right guidance, know what to look for, and know what type of investor you are. So, like you always say, begin with the end in mind. What are your goals? And let's get you there.
Of course, there's risk in anything that, any of us do. In the single family house business, if you're rehabbing a house, there's always the risk of the unexpected that may come up. You don't know exactly how long your carrying costs are going to go. Of course, we use a formula that accounts for the unexpected, but there's always the unexpected. In this world of tax liens, tax deeds, tax certificates, what are the risks that are involved? I heard you say, if you're looking for a rate of return, you could get a rate of return of up to 36% annual rate of return. I heard you say that a second ago. But what are the risks that go with this type of business?
The biggest risk is not knowing the area that you're investing. So I put it this way. A lot of people have heard historically through bad infomercials, YouTube, we always get that bad information from new investors that they heard from an uncle or somebody that is a guaranteed investment. And counties actually will guarantee on the documentation the rate of return, but it's always caveat emptor, which is buyer beware. And what that means is basically if you don't do your due diligence, just like any other type of real estate, you're going to get yourself in trouble massively. So where I've seen people go wrong many times is they just in their mind, they're hearing that they get this great rate of return, 36%, 24%, and they think they can buy any lien and get that money. Well, the reality is if the county's not able to collect that money, they can't pay you. So you may have just thrown money away. And after a certain period of time, there's a statute of limitations on there where they drop off, you can lose your money. So you could buy a lien. Many times you'll see a tax lien on a property, residential, commercial property, that the lien is actually higher than the property's worth. And people will invest in it because they don't do their proper due diligence or homework, just like anything else. Many times in areas like you'll see in Arizona, they'll sell tax liens at 3-year redemption period, 16%, but it's in the middle of the desert. They're just trying to create, so if they're just like, we all know in real estate, a property is only worth what somebody else is willing to pay. If you end up investing in a lien against a piece of land that's worthless, you're never going to get money. And if you decide to acquire the property, if nobody sold land in that area for 50 years, odds are you're not going to sell it either. So that's where people tend to go wrong, is not doing the proper due diligence. And it's difficult because each area has different laws, different rules, different regulations. So you may learn incredibly well how to do it in one area and then jump to the next county and it's turned upside down. So it's just doing that proper due diligence. If you don't do that, you're just like any other type of real estate, you're going to bury yourself really quick.
So Jay, can you really do this business 100% virtually from sitting at your desk without having to go out and look at properties? And I mean, can you really do the analysis once you learn how to do it from just sitting in your home office?
Yes. That's what's so awesome about it for me now, is because it used to be you'd have to go to sales, and there's some areas that only do it that way. But if you want to be a virtual investor and invest consistently online every single week, absolutely, you can do it all from home. Your due diligence, your research, and something's a little different when you're buying liens is, remember, we're not buying the property, we're buying the lien against it. So we don't have to do the same type of proper due diligence you would when you're purchasing a house, a duplex, whatever it may be. Now, if I'm buying the deed to the property, there's going to be more research in it, but I can do that virtually. I've bought properties in Florida through deed sales that I never stepped foot on, in Michigan also, where I never stepped foot on it, but I always get some boots on the ground, so to speak, somebody to go over, take pictures. We can give you different ways to do it, but you can do everything 100% virtual. And then learning from an expert like you always have tons of different exit strategies, right? We can get them into finding great properties, finding great investments, and then working with an investor like you and getting the knowledge that you have, you can show them multiple exit strategies. Some people want to keep the properties for cash flow. Some people want to move into the properties, and some people just want to do a quick flip or virtual flip. The last few properties that I've sold, I've never stepped foot on the property, and the communication I had with the investors that purchased it, most of it was online. It's usually less than a 5-minute conversation, and it just depends on how you acquire the property and how they want to purchase it. I'm a big fan of quick claim deeds in some states because I can just put my hands up. I'm selling it to them very, very cheap, very inexpensively. So I'm able to walk away, make a decent profit, and then they still have a lot of meat on the bone to do whatever they choose to with the property also.
Well, you own over 700 of these types of investments right now. Give our audience one example of one of the best deals you've done.
One that pops to mind right now that's just been kind of the luck of the draw that has intrigued a lot of people. There's a county in Arizona called Pinal, which is south of Maricopa, Phoenix, and a little bit north of where the university is. And Lucid an electric car company just moved in there, and a couple of tech companies down there. And a few years back, I bought a whole bunch of liens for about $50 a piece. And it's just raw land. Something we're seeing a big trend in, where we're seeing a lot of profit on our side of things, is undeveloped land, raw land in places that are expanding. So it just happened to be that I bought a bunch of liens in a place that was zoned for a neighborhood, and they've all come to fruition where I can actually step in and foreclose on the properties. And those same lots that total my cost out of pocket will probably end up being, to take ownership and everything, maybe $1,000 to $1,200, somewhere around that range. But the lots right now are selling anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000 a piece. So that's a really cool strategy right there. That's current that's going on right now. I purchased a property in Michigan for less than $200, $177.50, and that's a lot of due diligence. That I owned that property, cash flowed it for a little while, eventually sold it to flipper and rehabber in the area this past summer. So really cool things. We're in that property right now. I want to say in that area of Detroit, it's probably worth about $50,000 right now, but I acquired it for less than 200. So there's some really cool stories, and we have investors that we worked with and people acquiring commercial properties for dirt cheap, which is really, really cool. And that's what's cool about the strategy. If you want to get into single family homes, multi-units, agricultural land, storage units, we can help point you in the right direction and find properties many times in that way. The most recent property I purchased, a property in Florida, Escambia County, Pensacola, market value $65,000. I bought it at a tax sale for $7,200. So there's really cool stories. We've got a bunch of those, obviously, to tell, but I won't bore you with too many of those.
Awesome. All right, folks. Well, Jay Drexel's website is www.unitedtaxliens.com. That's unitedtaxliens.com. And to take advantage of his free ebook that will be sent to you immediately, you can text to Jay the word invest, INVEST, to the number 72,000. Jay, as we wrap up the show, if you only had 30 seconds to give the best advice you could to your best friend that knew nothing about real estate investing but wanted to get started in tax liens, what would the advice be?
Learn from an active investor that's actually currently doing it. That would be the number one thing. Learn from somebody that's really doing it so they actually understand the process that goes on right now.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. So, folks, there you have it. You're interested in tax liens, tax certificates, tax deeds, getting high rates of return safely, doing this kind of business virtually. Again, you can connect with Jay Drexel at www.unitedtaxliens.com, and you can get his free ebook and resources by texting to him the word invest, INVEST, to the number 72,000. Jay, thank you for joining me on the show, and parting comments, my friend.
Hey, thank you for having me. Look forward to working with many of you in the future. Most importantly, Jay, your entire team, you guys are awesome. I love the things you guys are doing. I just recently ordered your book, so I'm looking forward to that. Kudos to you. And once again, double J's right here. Let's do it again sometime. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jay. Well, folks, thank you for joining in here on another show at Real Estate Investing with Jay Conner. I'm Jay Conner, your host, the Private Money Authority, wishing you all the best. Here's to taking your business to the next level. And we'll see you right here on the next show of Real Estate Investing with Jay Conner.